An American Airlines regional jet colliding with an Army Black Hawk helicopter.
Crash. This is Alert 3.
Both plummeting into the frigid Potomac River in the nation's capital.
It was probably out in the middle of the river. I just saw a fireball and then it was just gone.
We are now at a point where we are switching from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors.
The American Eagle flight was carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members. The flight, originating from Wichita, Kansas, was just seconds from landing at Reagan National around 9 o'clock Wednesday evening when the collision happened. On the flight, several young athletes with the U.S. figure skating team, along with coaches. Russian state media reporting 2 Russian world champion skaters were also on the plane. A military official saying there were 3 people on board the Black Hawk helicopter that had been participating in a training flight. American Airlines CEO Robert Isom.
And at this time, we don't know why the military aircraft came into the path of the PSA aircraft.
The air traffic control tower was heard asking the chopper pilot if he sees the passenger jet and to pass behind it.
American 472, Washington, 1 star, 32017.
President Trump started his briefing from the White House with a moment of silence for the 67 lives lost.
So all of this is going to be studied, but it just seems to me, from a couple of words that I like to use, the words common sense, some really bad things happened, and some things happened that shouldn't have happened.
The president pointing to several possible factors that may have played a part in the crash, laying the blame at least in part on the air traffic controller and the helicopter pilot, as well as diversity and inclusion policies at the FAA.
The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run this Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of bullshit. The Department of Transportation, his government agency charged with regulating civil aviation. Well, he runs it, 45,000 people, and he's run it right into the ground with his diversity.
Trump adding Americans should not be hesitant to fly. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth echoing the president's remarks, stating there is no excuses. They will get to the bottom of what went wrong.
The military does dangerous things. It does routine things on the regular basis. Tragically, last night, a mistake was made. And I think the president is right. There was some sort of an elevation issue that we have immediately begun investigating at the DOD and Army level.
Guam Delegate James Moylan posting on X, "My heart goes out to the passengers and families impacted by the tragic event at DCA. We extend our deepest condolences and prayers to those affected during this difficult time." The main runway at Reagan National is the busiest in the nation, with over 800 daily takeoffs and landings every single day. Airports across the nation stunned over what is now the deadliest commercial plane crash to occur on U.S. soil in more than 2 decades.
Security, safety, and certification is our top priority.
Juan Regis is the air terminal manager at the A.B. Wonpat International Airport.
First of all, very tragic. I mean, again, it's one of those things that it doesn't necessarily happen on a day-to-day basis, but when it does happen, we got to be prepared to respond. And that's in the interest of saving lives, protecting property, and the environment.
He says he spoke with his staff about the crash.
So in this unique case, what happened in DC, again, unfortunate, is a very complex operation. Given it was 1, a water rescue, 2, it involved a military aircraft, 3, it was an off-airport incident. So in our case, for an off-airport, that would really involve Officer of Homeland Security, who would be the lead.
Regis has 45 years of aviation experience to include federal, civil, and military. The D.C. crash reminding him of the crashes he responded to.
I was personally involved with the Korean air crash back in '97, and of course I was also involved with the Northwest nose gear up. And of course we had Cessnas across Citibank, we had a Cessna go down behind Townhouse, we had a helicopter that went down on top of Chuck's Steakhouse, so I got a good amount of experience responding to aircraft incidents.
He says staff at the Guam airport train regularly, so they know what to do if they too need to respond to an aviation disaster.
The biggest takeaway we do with all the incidents that occur throughout the nation is we actually learn from that. We actually study it, we dig into the responses that they executed, and see what we can do, and do we have the resources and capability, or do we need additional training to be able to respond to such an incident, such as turbulence. So in the latest case of Hawaiian Air, there was quite a bit of victims that experienced injury from turbulence. So we want to be prepared that in the event we get an aircraft with 50 or so mass casualties because of turbulence, that we're prepared to respond to that as well.
He assures the community operations locally remain safe as the D.C. crash investigation is ongoing.
In fact, again, things are still to be determined. Being a former FAA employee myself for airports, there are a lot of moving parts to this investigation. So it starts out with the NTSB, and then they build up a team. Obviously, it involves flight standards, it involves technical operations, the air carrier, the airport, and of course other means of responding mutual aid representatives.
Also having the experience in the military, if I may ask, could this have been avoided?
Of course, any incident could have been avoided. Human factor is always going to be there, though, nonetheless. So it's one of those things, we do our best. In fact, we're going through a process called safety management system that has been recently mandated by the FAA. So that's another improvement from lessons learned from the past.
Meantime, 2 black box data recorders have been pulled from the wreckage.